Hello, I'm Lauren Washington, and I will be playing the part of Martha May, audiologist from Childhood Hearing Services.
Hi, I'm Ashley Vandergriff, and I'll be playing the part of Karen Smith, an early intervention specialist from Tennessee Hands and Voices.
Hi, I'm Ashley Orange, and I will be playing Lucy's mom.
So tell me about your daughter, Lucy.
Well, right now Lucy's 3 years old, and as a baby, she was diagnosed with golden heart syndrome. So her father and I have been very concerned about her communication and her school educational settings.
All right, well, we will be happy to address all of these concerns, but first let's start out with talking about her hearing abilities. Martha is a well-known audiologist from Child Hearing Services, and she will share the details of this with you.
Well, we see in your charts that you have no known deafness in your family. Is this correct?
Yes.
Alright then, we will begin with the basics. As you may know, an MRI scan revealed that Lucy has no auditory nerve bilaterally. Because of this, she will not be a candidate for a cochlear implant. For a cochlear implant to work effectively, the auditory nerve must be in good condition. The next option to open up access to sound would be an auditory brainstem implant.
Well, has this surgery been successful?
The ABI is actually pretty new, as it was invented in 1979. It wasn't until October of 2000 that the FDA approved the Nucleus 24 ABI for those with NF5 and above the age of 12. On January 22, 2013, the FDA approved a clinical trial of ABI implants on children.
All right, now that you have some more facts to think about the possibilities of an ABI, let's talk about golden heart syndrome.
Well, when Lucy was first born, I'll tell you the past first. When I was about 21 weeks pregnant, I went in for an ultrasound, and they found out that she was going to have a cleft palate or a potential cleft lip. And so when I figured out and heard about this, I was in shock and disbelief. I was confused, sad, upset, didn't know how to deal with it. So I went home and did as much research as possible. And luckily I came across a website called Faces, which actually gave the opportunity for those who have lower incomes, which we did at the time. The people give supports and help you financially with cleft palate and any potential problems for the future. So as we prepared for Lucy to have a cleft palate, we later found out when she was actually born that she had golden heart syndrome, which involved, facial malformities, and Lucy was actually born with an eye problem. So,
Well, all of these feelings of shock and sadness and just confusion are normal for this situation, so don't feel alone, and you're doing the right thing by coming here to seek help for Lucy.
So the next step that we're looking into is thinking about getting corneal transplants. Do you know anything about this?
Yes, a cornea transplant is a surgical procedure to replace part of your cornea with corneal tissue from a donor. This procedure can restore vision, reduce pain, and improve the appearance of a damaged or diseased cornea.
Well, does Lucy have to be a certain age or anything to have this transplant?
Actually, when we're talking about a child such as Lucy, it is best to have this procedure done early. Early treatment helps the child's eye grow and helps eyesight develop properly. A doctor will decide the exact time that she can have it done.
Or is there a possibility of Lucy's eye rejecting the donor cornea?
Well, most cornea transplants are successful, and they do run a small risk of rejection of the donor cornea. Some indicators that the donor cornea may be rejected are loss of vision, pain, redness, and sensitivity to light. If these symptoms occur, it is advised to make an appointment with your eye doctor. Luckily, rejection only occurs in about 20% of cornea transplants.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not too high of a percentage.
Right. Another benefit to this procedure for Lucy is that since she is deaf, maximizing all of her other senses will be crucial to her educational development. As we will discuss later, there are many different modes of communication, and allowing her to partake in the visual aspects of these languages will really help her in the future.
We know this is a lot of information for you to take in all at once. We just want you to know that we're here for you. If you need us to slow down, then just let us know.
I know it's overwhelming, but I am so thankful to have you all here. Which reminds me, my husband and I wanted to know the best forms of communication. What do you all think?
Let's discuss the methods of communication. The main communication modes for oral approach involve auditory verbal, auditory oral, and then natural oralism and maternal reflexive methods. As you can see, the visual approaches include ASL, SE, SEE 1 and 2, CASE, CS, or PSE. The main visual approach is ASL. ASL is also known as American Sign Language and is highly used among the deaf individuals in the United States. It uses the visual representation of signs and fingerspelling. As commonly mistaken, it is not English on the hands. Lastly is the multimodal approach that involves cued speech, SSS, bilingualism, total communication, and simultaneous communication. I will briefly touch over the basics. Total communication is where the child uses signing and speech at the same time. Bi-Bi, which is bicultural bilingual approach, requires deaf kids to learn ASL first and then they will learn English afterwards.
Okay, so what is your personal opinion on the best mode of communication?
Well, honestly, the best mode of communication is to be determined by what works best for your family. We typically see that parents usually choose their native language to be spoken throughout the home. However, since you have not had any history of deafness and little exposure to the deaf culture, you may find it easier to use a multimodal approach. This approach will allow accessibility to both signing and speaking, which may make it easier to communicate in a variety of environments.
Okay, well that's good to know. One of the things I wanted to talk about, and one of the things we've been thinking about lately a lot about, is whether she should be mainstreamed or continue to be homeschooled. What's your opinion?
First off, I'll start by saying that you are welcome to homeschool her if you want, but you also have a whole array of other options out there. One of the biggest legislative changes that have had a major impact on deaf and hard of hearing individuals was the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, aka Public Law 94-142. According to the Public Law 142, allowed for the least restrictive environment in the classroom setting where disabled and non-disabled peers can receive their education alongside with each other. It requires the state to provide a free and appropriate education for children with disabilities between the ages of 5 through 18. There is even the extension PL 94-457, which allows children 3 to 5 to receive free services and appropriate education and establishment for early intervention programs for infants and toddlers. This extension would even allow for Lucy to receive education even as of now.
Oh, how interesting. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Like I stated though, you are welcome to homeschool her if you want. You can choose for residential schools, regular schools, or homeschools.
What are residential schools?
Residential schools are formal education opportunities to those who are deaf in a school setting. They may be private or public. One of the main goals is to serve the scattered populations of those residing outside of the main area.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard of that. Isn't there one in Tennessee somewhere?
Tennessee has Tennessee School for the Deaf that is a residential school setting.
That's not the same as a day school, is it?
Day schools are public schools that have been established to accommodate students who are deaf that reside at home. The curriculum is the same as residential schools and involves deaf and hearing faculty and staff members that are trained to work with deaf and hard of hearing children. These are in more local areas. Other educational settings can include mainstream programs, resource rooms, and separate classrooms.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great to know. I didn't realize how many options were out there.
Yes, there are many options out there for you to choose from. And like we stated earlier, you should choose the best environment that will fit to meet Lucy's needs, allowing the best access to appropriate resources and education.
I'm so sorry. Hang on just a second.
Oh, no problem.
Hello? Oh, hey, what's going on? She what? Are you serious? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'll be right there. Okay, bye. Oh my gosh. Well, Lucy's ride just called and she cannot pick her up, so I've got to get going. But thank you all so much for the information. It was so great to finally hear some options that are out there and available for Lucy.